Welcome as we continue our study through the New Testament, looking at the New Testament church. And today we are going to be in Philippians 2, verses 12 through 8. And this is Paul writing about how we are to shine brightly for Christ. So we'll look at that real quick and then hit the notes. So he says, starting in verse 12 of chapter 2 in Philippians, "Dear friends, you've always all followed my instructions when I was with you. And now that I'm away, it is even more important. Work hard to show the results of your salvation." That's an important thing. It's not work hard to receive salvation. It's work hard to show the results of your salvation, right? Salvation, there is fruit of salvation, and that should be hard work. Obeying God with deep reverence and fear, for God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases Him. Do everything without complaining or arguing. That's important too. That and I know I'm going off a little bit on my notes, but sometimes that's become the standard today. It's like, you know, like the invent of social media and stuff like that. It's like everyone just wants to vent and complain and argue and do that. So it said, don't do everything without it, so that no one can criticize you. Live clean, innocent lives as children of God, shining like bright lights in a world full of crooked and perverse people. Hold firmly to the word of life. Then, on the day of Christ's return, I will be proud that I did not run the race in vain and that my work was not useless. But I will rejoice even if I lose my life, pouring it out like a liquid offering to God, just like your faithful service is an offering to God. I want all of you to share that joy. Yes, you should rejoice, and I will share it with the joy with you. And so Paul, right, he is encouraging believers to remain firm in their faith and to live faithful, obedient, and pure lives modeled after Christ. And this is something that we have to do. Sometimes we get this idea like, oh, well, I'm saved, I'm good, and that's not the way that works. It's something we have to continually work at, right? It's something we continually, it's not, oh, well, I'm saved, I'm good, I don't have to worry about anything, don't have to do anything. No, it's a continual work of staying faithful to Christ, remaining firm in your faith, because it is easy, the god's go or the devil's going to be working on you to try and get you to walk away from your faith. And so he says here, obeying God, he said believers must reckon with God's judgment like everyone else, so they must live lives before him obediently. Like, we are not immune from living obedient lives. It's not like, oh, well, I'm saved, so I don't have to worry, all my sins are forgiven, so I don't have to obey God. No, we do. And he says, for God is working in you. God empowers us. He energizes believers' lives, but the desire and the power to do what pleases him comes from God. And so we need to remember that doesn't come from our human nature, that comes from God. And so he talks about complaining and arguing, right? And that arises from self-centeredness, right? If you look, and I'm sure, I know that we've always been human nature. Humans have always been guilty of it, but maybe it's just because of the nature of the culture and the stuff that we live in today. But like complaining and arguing just seems to be like encouraged. It's like if it's like every time you turn around, you see someone, they're just complaining or they're arguing with someone, or someone's causing division or causing issues, and that arises from selfishness, from self-centeredness. This complaining and arguing, so, oh, it's about me, everything's about me. And that's not how we're to live. As Christians, that's not how we're to live. Believers are called to a sacrificial love, which means putting others first, not yourself, putting God first and others first. And by doing that, we're going to shine like bright lights, right? And believers, we are to draw people to God by our lives, right? Not by our words, not by the things we say, but the way we live our lives. And he reminds us, like, look, you're living in a world of crooked and perverse people, and that's true, right? And he's not saying that to be mean and hateful. He's telling the truth there, that this world is full of very crooked and perverse people. All you got to do is look in the news every day and see the things that happen, and we can see that. And so he says, in that case, right, and he's given us all these reminders. He says you need to hold firm to the word of life, right? Believers must maintain their faith in Christ, right? God is faithful, right? God is faithful to us, but we too have to remain faithful. This it's not, sometimes we're given this idea in Christianity. So, well, you give your life to Christ and everything, like you're good, right? You'll never fall away. Like you're His now, and you can't give up on him. You can't walk away from the faith. That's not how that works. We can, and the devil's going to work very hard to try to get us to walk away from our faith. And so we need to understand that. And so it's something that we need to hold firm to. It's something we need to hold on to. And Paul uses the run the race analogy. He uses this a lot, right? He uses this athletic language as a metaphor for the Christian life. We are running this race, and we have to make it to the end, right? We don't just start the race, and because you started the race, you won, right? You've got to finish the race. All of us. Paul talks about how he wants to make sure that he finishes the race, right? And so, because he talks about he wants to finish this race, and he wants all those people that he started this race with him, or who have started running the race with him. He says, I will rejoice even if I lose my life, right? Pouring it out like a liquid offering to God, because he's saying, hey, I'm sacrificing my life. I'm sacrificing my life here for you all, because I want you to be there at the end. I want you all to finish this race. And so this was a metaphor that they would have understood. The literal translation is, I will rejoice even if I'm to be poured out as a liquid offering. And Jews and pagans understood this, because often what they would do is they would pour out a libation of wine, or a little bit of a certain amount of wine on a sacrifice, or at the base of an altar, in honor of whoever they were sacrificing to. And so this was a common practice, so they understood the metaphor of what he was talking about. And so he's reminding him, and Paul's entire life has been an offering to God, at least from the point that where he gave his life to Christ. And so he was reminding them that faithful service is a cause for rejoicing, not complaining, not sadness or anything like that, or anything that to look down upon, because nothing done for God is in vain. And so he's reminding them of that. And so the main idea of this entire section right here is that we are to stand firm, right? Make sure we continue to obey God, and that we are to be a light that shines really bright, that would attract other people. And so other people would see, look at the life that this person is living, right? You can tell something's different about them. You can tell they've changed. You can tell that they are holding firm to something. And he reminds me that you have to hold firm to the end. It's not, okay, well, I started the race, I'm good. Like, I'm going to be able to coast to the, no, it's a race. It's a marathon. It's a long road. It's not an easy road. And so he's reminding them, but he's still reminding them of the fact that he's going to rejoice in that, because in the end, it's worth it. He's saying, in the end, it's worth it. The sacrifice, the love, all this is worth it for myself and for you. And so it's just kind of a reminder, excuse me, of what faithful service is. So, as always, I hope that you're learning from these. Again, like I've talked about, for the way that he wrote Philippians, it's a little bit shorter sections. We're going to hit a little bit longer section tomorrow, where he's going to commend Timothy and another person that's working with Timothy there in Philippi. So we'll look at that. But like I said, I hope that you're learning from these. I hope that you're pulling information from them. I hope that it helps you to dive a little bit deeper into the Word every day. So as always, encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. That way you can follow along with us. And as always, more than anything, I appreciate everyone who takes time to watch, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day.